I feel like we could easily have several top 10s, and I say that week in and week out, but starting 33rd, coming through the field like that was impressive, man. We could pass. We had a good car. Such a credit to Rodney and this whole Ford team, man. They're just top-notch. They're great at what they do. We knew if we keep doing the right things long enough, it's going to come together, and we were that close, right? Like, I think another 10 laps could have been a hell of a finish.
Driver for Stewart-Haas Racing, Josh Berry, fought his way to a third-place finish at Darlington. Easily his best performance for Stewart-Haas in a Ford. 10 of the top 20 finishing drivers were in Fords at Darlington. 5 of the top. Let me get that back. Let's run that back. 10 of the top 20 finishing drivers at Darlington were in Fords. 5 of the top 10 were in blue ovals. Josh Berry, nice third-place finish. Great run for him. A Ford also won the race. Alexis, what does this mean overall? Is this a change in what we've been talking about, that Ford finally breaks through and gets their first win in the 13th race of the season?
I think certainly getting to victory lane is something we have not seen them do yet this year. We have seen them run up front on occasions. We talked about how, Brad Keselowski has had a few runner-up finishes. Chris Buescher just last week, closest finish in NASCAR history, ran second. So we have seen Fords run well. Noah Gragson has run really well over several weeks. Certain drivers, Josh Berry, I think he's had 16th or better the last 4 weeks in a row. This is the first top 10 and first top 5 of the season for him. So a great improvement for him. But yes, I think from where we started the season and all of our conversation for the first 13 weeks of the year being, where is Ford? How come Ford hasn't gotten to victory lane? I think potentially now we are seeing that they are starting to catch up. One race does not make a trend, but it's a start.
Brad, it's the first time this year we've seen the Dark Horse Mustang actually perform like a thoroughbred. Is this a trend? Is this the start of a trend? Is this an outlier? What do we make of this sudden renaissance of the Ford at Darlington?
I think it's a jumping off point, and here's why. I think Darlington, we might go back and look at the end of the year and say this was the key for Ford, whatever they all brought to Darlington, because all of those numbers you mentioned, and 3 in the top 5, you had RFK Racing win the race. You had 2 Stewart-Haas drivers in the top 5 with both Josh Berry and Chase Briscoe. Then you had Rick Ware Racing, which does have an alliance over there with RFK, with Justin Haley finishing 9th. You had Front Row Motorsports with Michael McDowell finishing 10th. That's several different organizations. You probably would have had a Penske car up there as well if Joey Logano hadn't been caught speeding on pit road late in the race. That tells me this isn't a one team, one organization like RFK. That tells me this is more of a, and to use their phraseology, a one Ford deal. And whatever they brought this week, I think they brought it with all of them, and this could be the key turning point that they needed. Now, we won't really know how this transitions until 2 weeks from now with the Coca-Cola 600, then going to Gateway after that, but I think this is a big, big deal for the Blue Oval.
Is this a Yates engine thing, Brad? Have they found a key to give them more horsepower?
I don't think so, because I think what Doug Yates and the folks do up in Mooresville with Roush Yates engines, I think they give them power. And I remember one time Buddy Baker telling me about Waddell Wilson, talking about, how much horsepower is this car going to have? Or maybe this came from Jeff Hammond, a story. And it's like, 700 horsepower if the car can turn, so you have a lot more in that. And I think they've had power. I just don't think that they've had aerodynamics and handling in the race cars. And now it appears they found something.
So, Alexis, this does change our narrative a bit. Last week, we spent a good bit of time saying no Fords have won. We're 12 races in. Now we're halfway through the regular season. Does this change our narrative for the second half of the regular season? 13 races down, 13 to go before we get to the cutoff back at Darlington.
I think it certainly will if like Brad says, we go to Charlotte and we see the Fords run up front, have really good races. And then even a couple races from that, we see them continue to run well. I think that will spell continued success for them. I mean, look, we've had seasons, the last 2 seasons, where it didn't seem like maybe Ford was on the map, and then all of a sudden we end up with a Ford champion. So you can't ever count them out. And the season is so long that we have that. We talk about how racing is cyclical from year to year. It's also cyclical from month to month, it seems like sometimes a team that was really high is no longer really high, and another team has come and stepped up and taken their place. I mean, how long ago was it that we were talking about, we were practically given William Byron the championship trophy, and he's had a few weeks where he hasn't been, the person that we've been talking about constantly. So it's cyclical, and I feel like right now we're in a section where we're going to hear a whole lot more from the Fords.
What is it my dad used to say? The sun don't shine in the same dog's butt all the time.
Sure. Absolutely.
That's probably exactly how he said it too, right?
I have no idea what that means. No, there were a few interesting adjectives probably strung into that if my dad said it.
But I mean, that is the point I'm trying to make, just in a more colorful way.
There you go.